ByJummy Opedare, a devout woman of God, wife, mother, and entrepreneur. A God-fearing woman who has devoted her time to ensuring that God's message is used to empower everyone, but most especially women. With a strong belief in the importance of women empowering women and educating each other through our life experiences, she is the founder of Women's Forum, Let's Be Real, a forum for women to work through issues and set and accomplish goals together. Held every second Friday of every month at 6 Elton Road, Lee Green, London. Keep up with Let's Be Real here on PRZ FM. Every Tuesday, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Let's Be Real on PRZ Radio 109.2 FM. My name is ByJummy Opedare. I'm your host. Thank you for tuning in with us every Tuesday. I'm so delighted and I'm so grateful. Thank you so much, and I bring greetings from all the members of Let's Be Real team. We really appreciate you, our listeners. On Let's Be Real, you know, we talk about real life issues that affect our lives. And the topic that you, our listeners, have suggested that we should bring on here, or if you still have any that you would like us to discuss here on Let's Be Real show, please don't forget that you can email it to us on letsbereal@przfm.com. Let's Be Real at przfm.com. And don't forget that you can send your comments and your questions as well, and we'll be able to bring them on here. Thank you so much. I'm so delighted to let you know that I'm not alone in the studio today. I've got on my right hand side Mr. Oyekan. Thank you so much for coming in. And on my left side, I've got Dr. Dami Oyekan. God bless you. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for inviting us.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, the topic that we are going to be discussing today is stop glorifying the devil. And I know someone will be thinking, what are they talking about? Because we hype this guy called the devil so much. We talk about him every minute down. We talk about God. Many people, everything devil, 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 devil. So we want to discuss on in what instances have we been glorifying the devil. Because I saw this particular message that came up, stop glorifying the devil, about this guy, this man and his wife that were supposed to go out to a church program very early on Sunday morning. And because the wife drove the car last night and came home without filling the tank of this car was empty, and they jumped because they woke up late. They were running late for the service the following morning. And the wife jumped into the steering. Let me just drive. We rushed down to the program. And as soon as she realized that the tank of the car is empty, so, oh, devil is a liar. Devil is a liar. He wants me to be late for this program. He doesn't want me to preach the message that I have for the people. And the husband looked at her and was laughing that, what are you doing? You know, someone was serious. Someone was really flabbergasted. She was all over the place. She was angry, and the husband was smiling. Now, why are you giving glory to the devil? If you had filled the tank last night, you wake up this morning, and the car will move. We don't have to rush. And it took a while for the woman to realize this. And I just thought, hang on a minute, we need to discuss this, because especially we Christians, we glorify the devil. The devil attacked me last night. The devil attacked this. The devil did this. The devil did that. And we only say one thing that God did. We would say 10 things that the devil has done, but one thing, even, I just want us to look at it. Is it actually the devil that has done those things? As this woman failed to fill her tank with petrol, now is saying the devil. What do you think? Is it the devil?
Well, I think in that situation, it's quite clear that the woman needs to take some responsibility for her inaction. It's interesting how that story makes the man the logical person instead of the woman. But
For once.
But in that situation, I mean, practically, you knew your car was empty. You knew you had somewhere to be the next morning. You either have a choice to fill it the night before or wake up early on time so that you can go and fill the tank. So in that situation, it's a very practical example of how, no, it's not always the devil. You actually have to take some responsibility.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. I think this is a classic example of the practical versus the spiritual, and where we seem to not have the correct balance, because we seem to, a lot of people seem to blame the devil for so many things, and this was another example where if she had acted correctly or planned properly or prepared properly, she wouldn't have found herself in that situation. But when she got there, she decided to almost absolve herself from some blame and decide to put it on someone else. And who's the easy culprit? It's the devil, and that's what she's done. So yeah, I think it's very clear here that it's not the devil. It was her fault.
Actually, I know that on many occasions we have done the same thing. And at times I'll be thinking, thank God there wasn't any emergency during the night that we had to drive the car urgently to somewhere. So maybe you are there and it's your habit to leave your car at night unfueled. I think you don't have the right to be blaming the devil for that. We need to begin to take responsibility, as Dr. Dami and Mr. Taiye have just said. So, but let's look at other instances whereby we put the blame on the devil. I don't know, maybe it is right. Maybe there are some situations whereby we can put the blame on the devil and not put the blame on ourselves. Let's look at our financial situation in the first place. If we have financial problem, what are the possible options that could have gone wrong?
Well, I think with financial difficulty, one of the key things that might have gone wrong is poor planning in terms of your budget as a family or as an individual. I mean, if your outgoings are more than your and what's coming in, then I think it's very clear that you will at some point get into financial difficulty. So where we are sometimes trying to live a luxurious lifestyle, where we are buying more than we should or taking in more than we should, it's easy for us to get into some difficult situation in the future. So poor planning and poor budget planning can lead to financial difficulty, as opposed to the devil coming in and swallowing the money from your account. I think another reason, and there's so many reasons, which is why the initial thought to go to the devil is really bad, because we need to look inward. I mean, another reason for financial problem might be a lack of a job, or lack of income, or losing your job, rather than the devil. So I think financial difficulty is not a direct link between the devil and the problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there are lots of situations where we do things to make the situation worse, or we actually bring worse financial trouble onto ourselves. But I think there is sometimes there is a background, perhaps, of lack of education or lack of understanding. Sometimes if one person comes from a background where there's training at home about how to spend money, how to do this, how to balance your finances, whereas someone comes from a background that doesn't do that, then they often, you have different educational backgrounds, so you go into situations with different levels of preparation, and that's not necessarily completely your fault, but there's always an element of what can we take responsibility for, what have we tried to do, even if we don't fully understand the situation, have we tried to seek help from somebody, have we tried to talk to somebody who might understand it? If we don't understand why we're living paycheck to paycheck every month, have we sat down to calculate the numbers, or every time the money runs out, it's the devil? So I mean, it's not always black and white, but there's things that we can try to do. And if there's a situation where sometimes if there's a lot of things going on and a financial crisis on top of it is like the thing that tips the iceberg, and then it's very easy to say, it's the devil attacking me, rather than taking a step back to see exactly what you can do.
Okay, thank you so much. So what we are saying is that financial situation is not necessarily mean that the devil. We should look inward first, try and budget, seek financial advice, and know what you have to do. When you've done it all, then you can know maybe devil has hand in it or not. But if we haven't done all these things that have been said, we don't have the right to blame the devil.
Well, I mean, what would you think about situations where, I don't know, maybe this is more applicable in like America or something, but say, you know, you've planned your budget, you've done everything as much as you can, then all of a sudden somebody unfortunately falls sick and you have to pay for medical bills that you didn't plan for. That wasn't something, you know, maybe you had savings up to a certain amount, but you didn't plan for this to happen. All of a sudden you're now in a financial crisis. You can understand how a situation like that, the devil has like used, you know, there is an input of it, yeah, exactly, to try and devour your resources. And to make a situation, you know, take advantage of a situation and put you at a disadvantage. So it's, yes, there are elements for both sides.
Yeah, I mean, we have to be clear here that what we're not trying to dispute, we're Christians. We believe that there is a constant battle between you know, between light and darkness, between God and the devil, and we're in the middle of that. So we're not saying that it is impossible that when these situations arise, it's not that, you know, the devil might not have a hand in it. But we're saying that we need to stop glorifying the devil and let's be real with situations and look inward and look into our personal circumstances. So that example that you gave, it is true that there are many instances where the devil might have a hand in financial difficulties, but I think if we look truly deep down, we'll find that a lot of these things could have been resolved with good planning. I mean, there are people who even plan for those kind of situations where if someone falls sick, there is support. I mean, there's things like insurance to support you if you know, you're sick, for example, or where there's crisis. So I think good planning can resolve a lot of these issues.
You know, that is why I just love this show. Let's be real. We are always very real. The other time we talk about money matter, how you can plan budgets and not spend unnecessarily, what little savings can do for you. The other time we talk about insurance, life insurance, medical insurance, all those things that you can put in place that will be taking a little token from you to get back the full benefit of it in future. So all these things goes into financial planning as well. Having said that, we still have the unforeseen for maybe relatives, far distant relatives, that they're not part of your insurance. But if we have a budget for emergencies as well, that will also help. It might not completely help, but it will go a long way. So all those things, if we plan well, it will be limited. The affairs of the devil will be very, very limited. We won't even think about the devil first, because when we have solution to our problems, we don't think about the devil. We just be glorifying God. Thank God that I'm able to do this. Thank God I'm able to do that. And then we will stop making the devil so famous. So famous. I think I was reading an article that says that the amount of time that we mention devil is, especially Christians, is more than the time we mention God. Devil is a liar, devil is this, devil is that, devil is that. And the poor guy is raising up his shoulders wherever he is, being so big, and so he wants to make himself even God because of the praise that people are giving him, that is able to cause this, is able to do that, is able to do that. We acknowledge the fact that he is a liar. We acknowledge the fact that he's all over the place, he's going to and fro. We acknowledge the fact that he's able to do some bad things, but he that is in us is greater than he that is in the world. God will help us. Thank you so much. Is there anything you want to add in the area of finances before we go to another aspect of our lives?
No, I think that summarizes it.
Yeah, agree.
Okay, now this particular case of parenting, if we as parents or whoever is struggling with their children, what are the things you think that have left undone, or why should we say that the devil is attacking that family or attacking the children?
Okay, so, well, parenting, you know, as most of us parents know, is a complex issue. When you're raising up a child, you're doing the aim is to try and do everything that you can as best as you can to give the child the best start in life. But there are a lot of other external factors as well that we don't have control over. There are things we try to make as good as possible. You know, you try to make them, the plan is to try and make them have the best scores. You want to look to see if you know, what kind of friends are they hanging around with? What are they doing with their time? Are you looking at their studies? Are you looking at how they're progressing at school? Are you attending the relevant meetings? Are you sitting down and having frank discussions with them? Are you praying with them so that they know about prayer and spirituality and having a relationship with God? Do we do things together as a family? Do we go to church together? Is there an environment to actually identify problems when they happen quickly? You know, there's lots of different elements to parenting. I think people have written books about it and continue to write books about it because it's complex. But every parent has their own, you know, different ways of trying to monitor their child and make sure that everything's okay, make sure they provide for them, make sure they pick up on problems. And I think sometimes sitting back and when there are issues that come up that, you know, you might not have planned for, so problems with the child at school, problems with the child's friends, you know, issues that are difficult and the family have to deal with, it can be very difficult for a parent to look back and think, okay, what could I have done to prevent this, or what can I do right now to address the situation? And when you start blaming the devil, is a form of escapism, because as parents, one of the most important things to us are our children. And when things happen, where situations happen, whether you plan for it or not, you often, when you start blaming the devil, it's a good way to not think about, oh, what did I do or did not do? How did I fail or did not fail my child? And it's almost a relief to do that, to blame an external party than to think, that I was lazy, that I didn't do this, that I didn't check up on my child. So you kind of understand why people do it, but that's not to say that you shouldn't actually sit back and reflect on what you can do better.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And it's interesting how you mentioned so many different examples before you even thought about the devil. And that's that's the culture, and that's the change in behavior that we're trying to enforce here, or to try to advise people, because, you know, there's so many reasons why things may go wrong with our children. And, you know, each child, I believe, is unique, and you have to look at situations distinctively. But as I say, there are responsibilities that we have as parents in terms of what we need to teach our children, the environments that we foster around the children. In terms of schools, for example, a little thing as looking at the Ofsted report in England, for example. Some people do not do that. One of my friends this week was saying that his school went from outstanding to failing within a short period, and he's paying his child's nursery, and he's paying a lot of money towards his child's development. And so he's looked at that and he's now considering moving the child away. But he wouldn't realize that if he didn't take notice, if he didn't look into into those things, that he knew that there was a report going on or a check going on, and he looked into it. So we have to take interest in our children's development, and it's not only on the child, it's on who they're surrounding themselves with, because it's show me your friends, and I'll tell you who you are. It's also, as Dami was talking about, on those discussions, because if you have discussions with your children, for example, you realize what they're interested in. So, for example, when they get to a certain age where you realize that they're not doing good in maths and English and science, but you're still trying to force them to be a doctor, you realize that you're failing as a parent, where you don't know your child, whereas they might be better at things like music, or they might be better in drama and in the arts. So you have to know your children, and you have to make time for them. I think there's so many reasons why things may be going wrong that it's beyond just blaming the devil.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much about for saying all those things, because I believe some parents are listening to us now and they are struggling. They are struggling with their children. There's so many options. You need to start to go through this checklist that has been spoken today, and see the ones that you have missed out on. And some of the teenagers are going through things that their parents are not sure of. They don't know. They can't place their fingers because they don't have that relationship with them. If you are so close to your children, you will know everything everything that is happening in their lives. If you don't know how to go about it, go and seek help. Go and see therapists, go and see counselors that could advise you, that could give you tips on how to go about things, how to find out more from your children. You can read books, you can go online, research on what to do. Don't just put it on the devil and we start to bind and loose when there's nothing to bind and loose. So please, let's do the right thing so that we know that after we've done all, then we know that this is the activities of the devil. Then we go to prayer.
Exactly.
But along the line, not that we will eliminate prayer completely, but our prayer will not be on the devil, binding and losing the devil. But because at times we might be binding ourselves. Maybe we are in the place of the devil ourselves. But when we do the right thing, when we communicate, when we check on our children, when we give them the love that they need, when we make the provisions that are necessary, when we give them the education that are necessary, when we tell them words that they value outside, if they don't find it, tell your children you love them, tell them how much you care, tell them what they mean to you. Those are the deceiving words that people use for them outside, and they think, oh, so someone loved me. So if we start to take our place and do the right things, then, in fact, as Mr. T was saying, that when Dr. Dami listed all those things, the devil was the last, was the last on the list. So at times we won't even get to that last on the list before we find solution. Exactly. So please, I don't know where you are tuning in from. I don't know what your situation is. Please take one of these tips and try them out. I believe that you will get good results. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Okay. Should we move to another particular aspect of our lives?
Okay.
Employment. Because I am brown, because I am black, or they didn't promote me. What do you think about that aspect of our lives?
Okay. I'll go. Well, in terms of employment, I think we have a responsibility ourselves to make us as skillful and as prepared for interviews, for example, or even before we get to that stage, to get ourselves educated. So we get ourselves educated. We learn about the skills that's required for the role. We look into applying for jobs rather than sitting back and saying that the devil is not allowing me to get a job. we practice in terms of interviewing skills, and we speak to people that have the understanding, and before we now blame the devil that it is the devil's fault for not allowing me to get a job. I mean, it is right that there are situations out there where there is prejudice, where there's discrimination, and there's all of that that's going on. But when it comes down to it, I think in general, people want the best person for the job. And if you have tried your best and you have prepared as good as you can, you've researched the company, you've put in applications for jobs, and you've interviewed as best as you can, I think there is a chance that you will get a job before you know it. You do that between 30 times, you'll get a job, rather than saying that, the devil is not letting me get a job. Sometimes we do some lazy things in terms of practicalities, because as part of my job, sometimes I have to look through applications, shortlist, interview people, and you see that there are people who copy and paste. so they might be applying for a job as a cleaner, and they copy something, an application from when they were applying for a cook, for example, and they put it and the job, and then they expect that they'll get it. It's not as simple as that. You have to actually put in the effort when you're applying for jobs or employment, and you have to research the company, make sure that any application is tailored to the job that you're going for, and you try your best before you say that it's the devil that didn't allow me to get this job. You might try your best and somebody else is better, and that happens. But then if you do it a number of times, and with God, because we still need God regardless, I'm sure that His grace will be upon us and we will get that employment. But before we blame the devil, let us look into our lives and look into our skill sets, look into what we are doing. Are we trying our best in terms of trying to get this job?
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that was basically very succinct. It talks, I mean, I completely agree with what Mr. T said about basically preparation. And I think even summarizing that, it's that looking to what you can do to yourself rather than looking towards external factors, because there are obstacles out there. There are people who might judge you differently, unfortunately, because of where you come from, or because you're a certain gender, or because you're a certain race. Those are things that are out there. But I think sometimes having that mentality that doesn't concern me, because I serve a God that's greater than anything. So if I do everything that I can do and I don't get that job, it's not necessarily about glorifying the devil, but thinking, okay, maybe that job wasn't God's answer for my prayer. So if I continue and persist, God's answer to my prayer will come. But sometimes using that kind of it's the devil, and then use that as reason to give up. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to do. I've tried. I did half an effort. I didn't get that job, so therefore I'm going to give up because the devil's working against me. It's again that defeatist attitude and forgetting, the God you serve, basically. I mean, the Bible tells us to have faith, but with action. You don't sit down and just sit at home and believe you're going to get a job, but you haven't done an application, you haven't researched, you haven't spoken to anybody. I mean, our God is a God that can do, wonders, that can do miracles, but the Bible shows us his expectation of us is to act. So if you're not doing that, and then you want to sit down and blame the devil, then I think sometimes a reality check is in order. And I mean, it's dishonesty, because the situations like that, the devil uses it to amplify how somebody's feeling. Sometimes people go into serious depression, go into serious issues with this thing, and they haven't even done necessarily the initial checkpoints or the initial steps that could really push them. You can imagine someone who's really tried and is frustrated. They've been doing it for months and months and months, and they could very easily give up, but they keep going until they get that job. Whereas somebody might try initially, they don't get the job, and they give up, then they sit at home and fall into into a state of sadness. So there are different routes that we have available to us. We have that option of free will and choice, and there are different options provided to us, and we have basically the direction to be able to choose what we do and how we respond to a situation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, because in terms of job, I know that many people have made complaints about it's because of this, because of that. They never mentioned that I wasn't prepared for interview. They never mentioned the fact that there are some other candidates that are more qualified than them. They never mentioned the fact that that job is not even for them. They will think that's the only job they have to apply for. And if you ask them questions, they've been applying for job for ages. Why are you doing the same thing over and over again when it doesn't bring results? If you think you need more qualification, go for it. If you think you need more practice, as Mr. C said, go for it. If you think you can have another option of different job or another route in entering that particular role that you want, go for it. If you want to become a teacher and you become a teaching assistant first, why not if not? But some people will just be bent on, you are not a qualified teacher, you're applying for a teaching role in secondary school. Where are you going to get it from? Let's do what is right so that we can get the good results. And even at work as well, the devil is monitoring me. You are not providing, your appraiser is zero. Your boss corrected you, you are putting up attitude. You are coming late to work every time, and now you are praying and fasting, binding the devil. Please do the right thing. Don't go to work late. Dress appropriately. Get more qualifications. Do your work and do it diligently. All those things is not the devil's work. There are things that you have to do. If you're at work and you think they're picking on you, check yourself first. What am I not doing right? Because you came late yesterday, you came late 4 days ago, you came late, and others are looking at you and the manager is not saying anything. You think they will be smiling and be your friend? They will be talking behind your back. And you don't submit your report on time. When you submit it, it's rubbish. So please do the right thing before we accuse the devil. We know that there are some situations that the devil is really manipulating things, but by then we would have explore all other options and avenues and see that you have come out clean. And God will help us in Jesus' name.
I mean, I just wanted to add as well that, this is what some people do is they just ignore their responsibility, and that's what we're talking about. But even in those situations where the devil is manipulating things, and I'm sure we'll come to this probably towards the end, it's very easy to deal with the devil if you're a Christian.
Oh yeah.
So once you've absorbed all the practical things, stamping on the devil is a very simple thing for a Christian, because greater is he that is in me than is he that is in the world. So don't even be worried about devil's manipulation, is what I would say.
As you are saying that, I'm just thinking that's why we stay long in prayers, because we don't do the do's, and we just want to fight the fights. That's why we stay long and we continue to bind devil for the whole year, and the devil is not bound. Yeah. We've been stamping on his head since he's just looking younger. Honestly, because when you're accusing someone, like in my culture, they say when you point one finger to someone, 4 others are pointing at you. So please, let's check ourselves and don't let the 4 fingers come back to us and only one to the devil. If we have done everything, as we are pointing accusing fingers at him, he's laughing at us. Exactly. That you can accuse me when you haven't done this, you haven't done this, you haven't done that. So please, let's look inward so that we won't stay too long in prayer, in binding and losing. We should pray at all times, don't get me wrong, but don't let us waste too much of our energy binding the devil. There's so many other things, other good things that we can pray about, that we can thank God for, that we can put before God, than when you call prayer points on the devil, come and see the energy, the zeal, come and see the motivation among people. They just want the head of the devil to be smashed immediately. But what are we going to do to ourselves that are not pulling up our weights? We need to start to think about that. And I believe God will help us.
Well, I think also, just like on the flip side with that, because it's important to point out that being a Christian and truly believing God, and even doing all the right things and putting all the effort in, just by the very nature of you being a Christian, you will attract problems. The Bible tells us about that. So we're not saying there are not situations out there where the fact that you believe in God and you stand for God, even when you're doing all the right things, putting in all the effort, ticking all the boxes, that's not to say your road is going to be smooth, that you're never going to attract problems, that you never have a situation. And again, it's just to buttress what Taiye said as well. It's about how you respond when that situation comes. Do you carry on trying to do the right thing and believing in God and praying and using all the resources He's given you, or at that point do you just give all the power to the devil and blame it on him? I mean,
it's what I would expect that you do as a doctor, is realizing what is causing the problem. Once you look self within and you see that this is being caused by myself, then you know how to treat it. And if you realize that personally I'm doing as best as I can, this must be from somewhere, and then you deal with it how you deal with a spiritual situation.
Exactly.
So it's trying to just diagnose, first of all, what is it? Is it a practical problem or is it a spiritual problem, and how then will I treat it?
It comes back to that kind of principle of spirit of discernment. I think that we talk about it a lot in church. We talk about it a lot in different circumstances. And again, you have to be attuned spiritually as well. I mean, again, it comes back to not just saying you're a Christian, but actually acting it out and knowing the word and putting it into day-to-day life. Because if you don't know the word and you don't know what a spiritual warfare is versus the fact that you haven't submitted something on time, or you haven't done this report on time, and you just package everything all to glorify the devil, it comes back to the fact that you need to go back to the manual. You need to go back to what God has given you to actually explain the situation, because the truth is He has given us all the answers already. And even if you have difficulty interpreting the answers or finding the right source, there are correct spiritual leaders, if again you can identify them, that can help you and direct you. But there's a lot that is on us to be proactive rather than just sit back, basically.
Thank you so much. Another particular area that people blame the devil for everything is marriage. Marriage problem.
Is the devil responsible for the divorce rate?
Yes. Yes, that's what we hear. Yes, that's what we hear. That's the story we hear. Even if the man or the woman, they are not showing any attitude or any responsibilities, they are not showing they are responsible, we blame the devil. Have you heard about that? Have you seen situation? I know that you are looking at people from afar, but you will see an element of irresponsible responsibility in the attitude of some people, and they blame the devil, or they blame each other.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of marriage, I'm relatively young in marriage, but I've seen other situations that have happened, and you know, it is another situation where it could be practical issues, and I think there can also be attack from the devil. In terms of practical situations that you've seen people who have been tempted, in terms of, you know, looking at other people who they shouldn't be looking at, and they fall into temptation and sin, and that's caused problems within their marriage. You've seen people who have not been adequately prepared before they get into marriage in the first place. I've also seen situations of people who, you know, they were told what they should do before they get into marriage. They had the counseling, the proper counseling, but when it comes to actually living the marriage, they're not living, you know, in the way that they've been taught by the spiritual leaders to live. And I've also seen people that have, you know, very wild or very strange thoughts about marriage, because, you know, in this day and age we spend so much effort planning and preparing the wedding without thinking of what's going to happen afterwards. And I've seen so many instances of people who have really failed in that respect, where they've put all their effort into that one day, and for me it is just a huge waste of money personally. That's an issue that we can speak about another time. But they spend so much effort on that one day, and then they forget that they've got the rest of their lives to live, and, you know, from then they might even start the marriage with financial difficulties. You know, there are so many issues, you know, problems with children, or not being able to have children. I think that could be a mixture of spiritual and also practical issues that you might have to just simply let loose of your pride and go and seek help in terms of going to doctors. But it's a big topic, and I think before going to the devil again, I think we have to start looking at our foundation. Is Christ the foundation of this marriage? Are we doing all the things that we were taught by our spiritual leaders before we got into this marriage? Are we praying as often as we can do? Are we dealing with the financial problems in the way that we should do as human, you know, as human beings, before we start blaming the devil? So I think yet again we can look inwards before going out to or before blaming the devil.
I think, I mean, again, completely agree. I think when it comes to marital problems, I'm always a bit more hesitant on like, because you're basically involving two entities now. You're involving two people, and ideally it should be three. It should be two people and God. So whereas before in the different situations we were talking about, okay, how you deal with something, how you respond to something, how you prepare for something. In a marriage, there are two people, and it's how the two people interact with each other and how they respond to situations and how they deal with stuff. Exactly. So it comes like one of the key things that, because marriages are built to have challenges thrown at them. It's just the nature of marriage. If you get married to somebody and, you know, intend to spend the rest of your life with them, at some point during that journey, there's going to be an issue, there's going to be a problem, there's going to be something that's not all honeymoon stage and you know, rosy. So, you know, it's the very nature of it. Even people who are, you know, go into marriage being financially well off are still they still encounter problems. So how do you deal with it when it comes? And if you haven't started off with, as Mr. T said, first of all, the good foundation in Christ, and, you know, knowing what the marriage is, what it stands for, and also communicating with your partner about these problems and discussing it, then you're kind of opening yourself up from the get-go to having a really bad outcome, or responding in a really negative way. I think it's, again, in marriage, even though you're married to somebody, in a situation, if perhaps your partner is not, or, you know, you're having difficulties with your partner, or perhaps your partner is straying, or infidelity, etc., there is still an element of how you respond to it. You could decide, I'm going to go off and do the same thing. No, I mean, you could, because, you know, tit for tat, you know, you really want to show this person, and, you know, sometimes, I know, like, women, sometimes they want to evoke jealousy, etc., in their partner. So if something happens and they think, okay, the only way I can really get this person to respond is by making this person jealous, and then I want to go off and do something else. Again, that's part of a decision you have made in a situation that's already bad to make it even worse. So there are elements that you can, you know, there is definitely like roles that we can take responsibility for ourselves, but a marriage is just so much more complex, and it's two people, so you have to interact with that person and work together with them, again, in a spiritual realm as well, and having lots of prayer, because as we've learned from our elders, etc., marriage is not not just the wedding. It's about the long-term journey, and it will be difficult at times.
Thank you so much. I believe that all our listeners are thinking about what is going on in their marriage. Everything is not the weapon of the enemy or attack of the enemy. Is the way that we address situations, is the way that we address issues, is the way that we let our pride and ego override our senses. So when we do the right thing, communication, spend quality time together, we make conscious effort to improve our relationship, I think we will overcome the devil. We overcome the devil. So when we come with the consciousness that based on the scriptural teaching that we've got, that vengeance is mine, you don't have to revenge. I can't do that on my own. Maybe your partner is not even thinking the way you are thinking because you are brought up in different ways. So you know the right thing, stand on the right thing, stand on the truth, continue to pray along, the devil will flee. Because it might not be the devil that started it. It might just be upbringing and, funny ideas. People are so different. That's what I've discovered in this life. That some people's thinking are full of error. Honestly, not that they are not okay, but their thinking is they just got errors in their thinking. They could not just think rightly, Yeah. But to them, they are perfect. They are right. In such cases, it's not the devil, it's just the way they were brought up. Yeah. And you need to use wisdom, more wisdom, to deal with such situation. So if we are patient enough, marital issues will be resolved than just not do anything. Both of you are bearing malice and you are praying and binding the devil. It might not do anything. Except we put faith without work. We have to act it out. We have to do something. Make conscious efforts to make sure that this marriage, somebody was telling me that she made a conscious effort, and all the family, they've got broken relationship. And she was saying that somebody told her that, why is your home marriage? You don't have problem in your own home, or you don't have problem with your husband. He said, look here, the same problem that you had, you left your husband, I faced it. The same issue that you had and you left your husband, I faced it. But and she spelled out her name, I've made up my mind that this my own marriage will work. Yeah. And they said the others were thinking, why can't we make the same decision? And all the faces of the issue, they've overcome it. And it's like they've never had any argument. But it took them so long to get there. So if we have the patience to get to that point as well, I don't know why she's not saying that the devil destroyed my marriage, because she made conscious efforts to do it.
Yeah,
so
I was just going to add that I think we have to continuously work on our marriage, and just it's something that we just have to continue doing. That communication is just a big thing, and realizing that one of the problems that I've seen is on phone, for example, when you say something, it can be really misunderstood or misread, and someone might read it in the wrong tone. There are things that we have to work on. We talk about the honeymoon stage is over, but there are certain things that you are doing in that honeymoon stage that allowed it to be a fruitful marriage, that allowed it to be pleasant, that we should just not forget about when we get into it. So I think there are practical things that we can do. One big thing that I think is important is not allowing the sun to go down on your wrath. So whenever you do argue, trying to resolve it within that same day, rather than waiting, because that's when things build. Devil comes in and it escalates. So I think we have to act quickly when there are problems.
I think we have part 2 of this. We are not halfway yet. We will have part 2 of it. Thank you for tuning in today. We are so grateful. And I believe that you've picked one thing or the other on this particular Let's Be Real show. And we're talking about not glorifying the devil. Let the devil be less famous than we are making him. We know that the power that is in us is greater than he that is in the world. God will continue to give us victory. Thank you, Dr. Dami. Thank you, Mr. T. God bless you. We'll see you again next time. Thank you. Continue to tune in. Stay safe.
Meet Pastor ByJummy Opedare, a devout woman of God, wife, mother, and entrepreneur. A God-fearing woman who has devoted her time to ensuring that God's message is used to empower everyone, but most especially women. With a strong belief in the importance of women empowering women and educating each other through our life experiences, she is the founder of Women's Forum, Let's Be Real, a forum for women to work through issues and set and accomplish goals together. Held every second Friday of every month at 6 Elton Road, Lee Green, London. Keep up with Let's Be Real here on PRZ FM every Tuesday, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m.